Okay, and then what I have to do now is get rid of all of this. I need to erase all of that, the signal, and obviously change some of the headings. If you're not good at using Excel for some of these things, it's not that complicated. I'm just using what you call it, borders. Obviously, I'm just using borders, and then the smart app for the X and Y axis. I just use the illustration or the smart act. No, the various shapes for lines and what have you for to draw the arrows. Okay, for your X and Y axis. That's what I'm using. So there's nothing complicated over here. Okay, so it's just your borders. Pick which one you want to use, or you can just draw lines, draw borders, and then pick a line, the thickness of the line that you want, and then use that. Okay, so we need to change this to um, biface, and the first one is actually Manchester. Manchester for uppercase H. Manchester for uppercase H. For uppercase, for lowercase I. Okay. And then the other one is differential Manchester. The differential Manchester can be a bit confusing, so I'm going to leave that. I'm just going to go to Manchester and then leave the differential one for a different time. Okay. So since most of the Manchester rules or transition happens with a mid bit, I'm going to include additional. So I'm going to have I'm going to insert more cells to accommodate two to accommodate one bit. Okay, so I'm going to merge this. So now the this bit here has got two cells, so we can have the mid bit. I'm just doing this so I can have the mid bit. Okay, and I'm going to insert the same thing over here, and I'm going to just merge this, insert, merge this, insert, merge, insert, merge, insert. So there's a lot of work that goes on with some of these things here. Merge, insert, merge, and then finally insert, merge. Wow, see how long it is. Okay, and then let me increase uh, my cells so I can have a bigger area, a bigger cell to work with. And what I could probably do with this side here, by the same thing, I could have copied and pasted. That's but keep in mind the message are different. This is for lowercase I and this is for uppercase H. So the bit sequence are going to be different, or they're different. So let's just go through this again. by inserting and merging. Quite a tedious process, but that's how you go about it, especially when it comes to assignments and what have you. You want to have it done nicely, and this is the best approach to go about it. Like I said, unknown, but if you want to get this thing done professionally, nicely, in a much more organized way, or show a bit of maturity in your level of of uh, putting reports together, then ideally, this is what you have to go. This is what you're gonna have to go through. Basically, you do have to go through this. Okay. Sorry, but it's just the way it is. Okay. So the biface technique, and then we do have Manchester for H and then Manchester for lowercase I. Okay. Let me just move my arrows down so I can have enough room to do the. It does get in the way of the border lines. That's the reason why I keep going this way. Okay. So great. So now for the Manchester, so now we do have this. If you're not good at, if you're not good with Excel, just learn it. You just kind play around with Excel, okay? And then you can get some of these things nicely. Uh, some of you would probably do free sketch. I don't think it's a good idea. At your level, so at the college level, you shouldn't be doing free sketch. Use pencil and ruler to sketch it out. No, just use Excel. It gives you a much organized diagram, or signal. So at least when somebody looks at it, can see that level of professionalism or maturity in the college students level, or from a college student's level. But if you just free sketch it, no, as a matter of fact, I don't want to see that in your assignment. Do not use your free hand to sketch them. Use Excel to sketch them nicely, beautiful, and then copy, put it into your reports. Okay, great. So let's go through. So now first, the rule for uh, Manchester states that uh, zeros always have a high voltage start. Okay, but they transition mid-bit, and the transitions only happen. Uh, all the sequence have got a transition mid-bit. By your key transitionings, which is where you actually move between the various bits that you have, happens when you have 0 to 0 and then 1 to 1. That's where you have most of your key transitioning taking place. So 0 to 0 and 1 to 1 are where you have your key uh, transitionings. Okay, but 0 has a high voltage start and 1 has a low voltage start. So those are two things that you need to keep in mind, or level voltage starts. So for 0, high voltage start, you transition mid-bit, and then if it's a 1, then you have to make sure that it starts at a low voltage pulse. Okay? So like for this that we have, for this message for uppercase H, based on this bit sequence, this is the order we have to go through. So we're going to have for 0 a high voltage start, always transition mid-bit, so always move within mid-bits. And since 1 has to have a low voltage start or a level voltage start, we can, if we're here and we're moving to the second bit, because it's from 0 to 1, the only way we can get here is by moving straight up. We can't go up and then climb up, because then that would change the rule to having a high voltage start for an on state. Are we good? So because this one is supposed to have a level voltage start or level voltage within the bit sequence, the only way to achieve that mid bit is by moving straight up into it. Okay, so now we are in between the mid bits. We move up, come up here, or come right up here. Now we do have a what? A zero, and like I said, as usual, zeros do have what? A high voltage start. So obviously this will come with a, we'll start from a high voltage pulse start, and then you mid bit movement. Now we have the next bit is actually zero, and based on the rules, we said that key transitions from bits only happens from 0 to 0 and 1 to 1. So in this case, if we want to transition for this 0 to 0, the only way we can achieve that is by going from this, climb up, and then give it a high voltage start. Okay, so you see how I went about it? Because a 0 has to have a high voltage start uh, uh, in any ways. So the only way to accomplish that is if I move directly on the initial state. If I allow the signal to move exactly on the initial state to come up and then give it that high voltage start, and then I still move back up. So back down. Now we have a 1. Ones always have what? Low voltage or level voltage to go through. And then we move mid bits. Now we have 1, 0, right? 1 to 0. So since 1, 0 always has a high start, the only way to achieve that is by going straight into it. We can't go back down here and then go there. That would defeat the rule. It will start it at a low voltage start or at a low voltage pulse level. So the correct way is to just go straight into it. So that will give you that start. Because keep in mind the 1 ends over here and 0 starts right over here. So if you have to have a high start, then that's the only way to accomplish that. Now we get, and then we transition where we move mid bit. Now we have S0 again. So we can only achieve the high start if we move right up at the ending of the bit and then give it that high start. The same applies to this 0. So 0 to 0, 0 to 0. So the same approach. And that would give you the Manchester encoding technique for uppercase H. Okay, so the rule states that, let's just go through it again. The rule states that all states have to have a high voltage start, which is a plus 5 over here, and then you move between the bits. The signal kind of like start shifting from the mid bit. With the other ones, if you notice, we're just we just move straight into it. There were no mid bit movements. So it was if you were from a high state, you wanted to move to the next bit, you move directly to the whatever the state needs to be at for that particular bit. But for this one here, we have to have a mid transition, which means we don't start from the ending of the bit. We actually move between the bits, or the movement, or the, to say in a way, alternations happens within the mid bit, but key transitions only applies when you do have 0 to 0 or 1 to 1. Okay, so that's how we manage to get these. Okay, so let's see. We do have some 1 to 1 1, so that we'll see that variations come up within the 1 1 within the key transitioning. Okay, so once again, high start for off state bits, and then you can just move straight up for the low voltage for 1 or on state, will be like this. Another approach that I go with is by trying to undo that. Okay. So another approach that I go with is, so I just go strictly by the rules and then just put where the highs and lows are going to be at for the on and off state bits. So I know that for off states, highs, off states, highs, off states, yeah, the initial stats should always be high. And then for the off states are always high. Off states are the opposite. The low start, but they have to alternate. So keep that in mind. So you're gonna start noticing that it gets a bit trickier with this type, with the if you have one to one. So if that's the case, for this to have its low start, it would go like that. And then for this also have its low start, obviously the same approach will go like that, or one to one. So if you want to transition between them, in that case, you'd have to go up, go off it, and then come right down to achieve the low start. So that's where you have key transitions taking place. Okay? Because it has to have that low start. So that's why we move just within it, just to make sure that, so if you notice, at the beginning of the line, we did have a transitioning just to get that the low starts. As compared to this one's over here, where's the beginning ones? So if you know at the beginning, there's no line at the beginning, there's no line at the beginning. It was only the 0, 0 transition, 0, 0, and 1, 1. So we have that transitioning, and then a 0, 0 transitionings for the beginning, transitionings for the beginning start of that bit. So the same applies to the ones over here as well. So that would be this. So as that, just to get it to get you the low voltage start. And then now since you have this come up, then it means that if you want to move right onto the 0, you can't go like this and move up. No, you always have that mid bits alternations. So we have that, and then you can move straight into it. Okay, and then in that case, you can also state that for one here, to achieve one low start, you have to go this way, mid bit alternations, and then to achieve the low start, you just go right across. You can't go straight up over here and then come down at the initial start of the bit. Now that would defeat the rule. So we have the mid bits, and then since now we have a 0, the only way to achieve that high voltage start by moving straight into it. Now we have a 0 to 0. So with this one, there has to be a transitioning at the beginning of this bit to give it that high start. So that's how you achieve that. So now you notice the highs, the highs, the highs, and then the lows, right? And then if you want to achieve a low, you're going to have to transition in for a 1 to 1. The same applies if you want to achieve a transition for 0, 0. You have to transition from the mid bit to the beginning of the bit so you can achieve the high start. So that's how you, oh, there's more. So there's actually one more bit left. We forget about you. And then obviously a low start over here. So the only way to accomplish it by going right through it. Okay, so it's 0 to 1. There's no transition, but it has to be that mid bit alternations. Okay, now we don't know what that other bit is, so we just leave it over here. If we had a sequence, if we were to put this together, if there was to be another sequence of bits, then we'll just move or we'll alternate in the mid bit and then decide how the other bits will pick up. So if it were to be a 1 on the next character that came up, its last bit starts with a 1. Obviously, we're going to have to move come up mid bit alternations, go up, and then go back down so we can achieve the low start for that particular 1, since all ones have to have uh, a level voltage start from the initial bit sequence. Are we good, guys? So that's how we got some of these signaling done for the various encoding techniques. As I said, the biphase also has two techniques, which is the first one being a Manchester and the other one being differential Manchester. But the differential one can be a bit trickier uh, with the way its rules. So I'm just gonna leave that for a different day. Okay. So SE, and then this is just my biphase, biphase, biphase T, biphase technique. These are the regular ones, and these are the biphase ones. So encoding technique for biphase. Okay, so that should pretty much do it. So the guy that was requesting for this, there you have it. I've gone through from the binary conversion rules based on computer binary rules, and then human decimal rules as well. And then we had examples of how the conversions are done based on these two concepts over here. And then we moved on to the encoding because they need to be observed. So I had to go back to this to help you guys, since the information you're going to be getting needs to be converted to binary before you can actually generate the signals for them. So that's why I had to go through the binary conversions. So we went through the no return to zero level, covered the two schemes underneath it, the level, and then the inverter, and then moved on to the multi-level, and then for the multi-level we covered the bipolar AMIs as well as the pseudo-ternary. So that ended the two first two groupings, and then the third grouping, which is the biphase, we had just the Manchester and the differential match. I'll cover some other time because of the complications in it. Hopefully, you guys can go through this, get a grip on it first before you see the other videos on the differential Manchester, as well as uh, the last part, which is the scrambling technique, which can get a bit confusing. So I'm just gonna end it over here, and then the subsequent videos will cover uh, the uh, the last schema that under the biphase, and then the two techniques under the scrambling, or the two schemes under the scrambling techniques. Okay, so guys, that should cover it. I hope you were able to catch on to some of these things. Um, I was saying to myself that there was really no need for me to go through this video because if you just went through the slides or the textbook, you'd easily figure some of these things out yourself. There wasn't much to it, you know. Uh, Maybe the way I went about it in the Excel sheet is probably what the guy was asking me about. It was one of the evening guys. Maybe that's why I wanted me to go through. I think it was about how I went through using Excel. I don't think it has so much to do with the technique rules because they were straight up from the slides or the textbook, which anybody could have easily followed. Or if you had gone through the video lecture, you would have easily gotten it without me going back through all this. Anyway, it's good exercise, and I hope you guys got a better understanding of how the signal encoding techniques are graphed, on your graph sheets. In this case, within Excel. Okay. All right, guys. So that should do it, and I'm going to stop the video right here.